All right, guys, so here we are, SEMA 2022, my favorite 5 Jeeps. All right, Jeep fam, as promised, part of my top favorite 5 Jeeps of SEMA 2022 is gonna be here with the Tonka Jeep. So no particular order. What I love about this one is the commitment to a theme, and it's got this big truck vibe. And so I wanna take a moment, tell you about that, and what are the things that jump out at me, and the individual who built it, what are some of the little fit and finish, little detail pieces that they put into it. So this particular Jeep truck started life as a 2014 1-ton Cummins Ram pickup truck. And they did a really nice job of forming and fitting the body line. So they feel that there's a lot of stock parts still on the Jeep. Things that we went ahead and we looked at, we can actually see where they plastic welded. So they did some cutting on the flares to extend the wheel opening so that it looks proportional. It is sitting on that Ram chassis with the Cummins engine, the factory Cummins engine inside. They did a nice job with the coilover mounts. Of course, we have king coilovers, full bypass resis, really trick setup. It is 4-linked and kind of your traditional, coil sprung and sprung over, coil over suspension. So that's all very cool. One of the big things they did in the grille structure itself is this is a completely custom grille. They obviously had to widen it, pull it up, forward, the whole thing. I love the fact that they stayed the course. They made it 7 slots. We got some peekaboo stuff there, but honestly, looks nice. They fit it out. This would have been just a worn bumper from obviously the Ram series lines. We have the DOT approved Mickey Thompsons. So they said this is how they run down the road with this truck. The owner himself was a tall individual, and his contention was that this pass trying to kill me. His contention was that he wanted a big truck to do truck things. So you can see they have the amp research, power steps on it. They give out all the specs. They call it the Gladiator 2, kind of cool stuff. And talks about the length, how long it is, the width, height, how they changed the hood. This obviously now has that 6.7 diesel Cummins engine, which has got all the power in the world for a newer vehicle. The other piece I really dig was this work service bed. So the bed is made. Somehow they cut the skins from the Gladiator itself and made it this kind of, now it's electric over hydraulic, which is really cool. And so now we opens up, we have access to our recovery gear, the ARB hydraulic jack, which is on display inside, which is just a wicked cool product. And obviously our power tank stored in there for when you do air down these massive tires. So I really am tickled by this one. I hope that you guys enjoy it. I think it's a great marriage of form and function, and obviously a full commitment to theme, and in general, a good Jeep representation here at SEMA 2022. I am at the Electric GT booth, and we have this sick Scrambler on display. This thing is wicked, right? It is clean, it is built, and best of all, it is electric. It is really, really cool. So, as you can imagine, we have seen everything from big motors, little motors, so on and so forth. This one takes the cake as far as electric Jeeps are concerned. It has that classic styling of the Scrambler that you love, know, and expect. That color is really comparable to the one that we have personally in our shop, #NotARestoration. But as you zoom in, you can see that beautiful electric motor right here. It has comparable massive horsepower, and it has the body shape, right? So the actual motor unit itself has the same footprint as an LS platform. You know how we love our LSs and we love stuffing them into Jeeps. This EV has the same footprint. So if we can put an LS in it, we can put an EV in it. As you go back, it has everything from brake proportioning for regen systems to throttle proportioning. It's interesting that this is actually a 5-speed manual, and it is running a Tremec transmission. Now, you remember in enough distant past, Jeep used Tremec for just about all of their transmissions at one point. This has a Tremec transmission in it additionally, and it has forward full power. The interesting thing about this is they don't recommend the use of reverse. Instead, they have a reverse button, and you actually can go through the gears in reverse. It spins the motor in the opposite direction, and you utilize reverse with your standard 1st through 5th gear selection. That's cool. The gauges are super clean, and they're made by Speed Hut. So instead of a fuel gauge, you have a kilowatt gauge or a charge gauge. You have battery temperature instead of engine temperature. You have range gauges. But if you look at the whole gauge display, it's going to look like our standard Jeep CJ gauges. How cool is that? Additionally, it mates up to a stock transfer case, and then ultimately you're just running your standard Dana or AMC or whatever combination of axles you want here. It does have multiple battery options, so they actually are similar size and usage as, say, a Tesla battery is. There's several mounted under the Jeep in the factory gas tank location, and there's a handful mounted in the back of the Jeep. It has this really cool CJ EV8 on it. I am just smitten with the color, the fit, the finish, all of the very cool things, and I am totally geeked with a stand-in unit that we can plunk out an engine transmission and put into either a vintage Jeep or some of those problematic newer vehicles that are soon going to need an engine swap. This seems like a really viable opportunity for us, and what better way to showcase this than in just the most beautiful, clean CJ Scrambler version. Man, I am like a kid. This is so cool. This one is a little bit of a dark horse. It was sitting outside, didn't see it on the main stage or inside or any of the other normal places we were traveling. I am absolutely smitten by it. It is owned out of Las Cruces, New Mexico, and it is sitting on these big, beautiful, gnarly Mickey Thompson tires. Now, they don't ever see this much tire shine. These are the non-DOT approved stickies from Mickey. So arguably to say the owner's not sure how this thing's gonna perform for the next few weekends. This particular set of tires is all mashed up right now, and he told us that these tires have been on for less than 6 months at this point. That is absolutely crazy. It has a Chevy 350 V8 throttle body, so that early 90s TBI injection. It's actually just a really good, well-used marriage of form and function. It's got all the integrated tubular stuff. It's got Fox coilover, 14-inch travel at all 4 corners. Obviously, we have the Ram Assist steering down below. We're actually even full Ram, and we have the Fox air bumps in the back. Now, one of the things that I noticed was how this shock tower, it kind of just seemed to disappear. And when we do our builds, we'll either French them in, we'll have to reinforce or gusset them in some capacity. This particular unit is actually tied, those shock towers are actually tied into the full roll bar itself. So we have this really nice, attractive paint and a nice flat black everywhere else. This Jeep flat out gets used. And that's what we like to see at SEMA. It's got 513 or 538 gears, 60s front and rear, 3 linked in the front, 4 linked in the rear, Curry, Rock Jock, anti-rocks, and obviously limited because it's got all the flexi articulation, and of course this really sweet PRP setup. It's just a clean install in the inside. It's a clean job on the outside. I mean, this is the kind of Jeep stuff that we love to see. The word is that this actually runs down the road perfectly fine, that it drives to the trails, wheels all day, and drives home at night. The particular owner who has put this together to this point, the bug has bitten him. He's actually only had it for a little less than 2 years and has completely gone hog on it. So I gotta tell you, it makes it into my top 5. I'm loving it. Super cool demonstration of what you can do with a vintage Jeep and a lot of quality new aftermarket parts. I know they're not supposed to be in any particular order, but I gotta tell you, hands down, this is my #1 pick right here. This is the belle of the ball. I've seen, you know, car enthusiasts, truck enthusiasts, everybody checking this one out. This is just absolutely one of the coolest ones. And if you've watched any of the other content, you know that I'm biased because I too have this CJ6. It doesn't look like this if you've seen Old Blue. This is just a beautiful work of art. What it has is a custom chassis. It actually is a really interesting, slightly peculiar suspension system under it. It is a shackle reversed spring lift leaf pack in the front. You know how I love my Fox shocks. They're here doing the dampening, softening that needs to happen. This body is not fiberglass. This is a steel body that has been fabricated and reinforced. So we have this beautiful, lovely curvature. The flare opening has been opened up and the steps have actually been integrated to the side of the Jeep itself. This Jeep pulls its form just from top to bottom. I love the KMC wheels. You have the worn lockouts, and they've actually stretched the 6 in its entirety. So a 6 typically has a wheel well opening. While it is further back than other Scrambler or long wheelbase Jeeps, it's not this far back. So they've stretched that wheel well opening. We have this big panel here, and they fit a JK rear seat by the looks of it into the back. And obviously we have these nice custom fit seats here, standard manual transmission, just full cage, and you just look at it and it looks perfect. It's the kind of Jeep builds for SEMA that we expect to see. A lot of high detail, a lot of fit and finish. Now I mentioned the suspension being kind of peculiar. As we move to the back, we actually run into something that's more similar that you find on more modern day builds. It is a triangulated 4-link with hydraulic bump stops. So we have that traditional-esque leaf spring suspension in the front, and we move to a triangulated 4-link with coils in the back. They rear boarded the coils and outboarded the shocks. You can see actually where they Frenched them in to the body here for that long extended travel. So I'm certain that this thing just slinkies out in the back and settles down in the front. It's a really interesting combination. I would love to know what the builder was intending for that, but overall, just a high fit and finish, a super cool vintage build, and this is the type of Jeep builds that deserve to be at SEMA. All right, I gotta take a moment and talk about this tire carrier. This is amazing because what we have is actual stanchions or gussets with a true flex joint and threaded in. So this is actually technology that we typically see in control arms and an adjustable control arm. We then go into a square stock tubing, which is actually integrated as part of the rear tailgate. This is wild. These tailgates would have been a drop down tailgate, a little chains dangling off of it. This is so well done. It's clean. You know, there's no booger welds. There's no, just somebody spent a ton of time and they deserve all of the good things and praise. You can tell these are serviceable. These joints are actually rebuildable. They're gonna just put up with a ton of wear and tear from this big massive tire. They Frenched in or recessed these rear backup lights and obviously inset that full-size taillight. So it has kind of a retro vibe to it. Obviously an aftermarket or an improved upon rear taillight, but they inset it. So not that this one's gonna be off-road getting pinstriped a whole lot. I'd like to see it off-road, but there's no chance that this light's gonna get impacted and damaged in the process. Great job overall. All right, in our continued, my favorite 5 Jeeps of SEMA 22, it is obviously unquestionably going to be the JTE, built by Greg Henderson. This thing has made its rounds on social media, and I can tell you there's a reason everyone's talking about it. You know how much I love 4xEs. This started out as a reasonably stock JLU 4xE. You can see it still has its factory charging port here on the side. It has this gorgeous green color, which they've been encouraging people to name the color at this point. And I don't know if it's something in the air, but man, these greens are taking the builds by storm. You can see there's a lot of very custom, unique things happening here. What they did, maybe if we come around to the other side, what they did was they actually went ahead and cut the Jeep behind the B-pillar, and then went ahead and added roughly 10.5 inches here in this space. They actually have replacement bedsides that allow this to have this nice, clean, and smooth bed line. Obviously, this is, they're saying, basically the only one in existence, minus the one that Jeep built themselves. So this is the only one available in the aftermarket. It's obviously accented by these beautiful black rhino, that bronze wheel package that they have, and the fit and finish is totally SEMA ready and SEMA worthy. I love the old school inspired roll bar that's available, and obviously the color palette of the 4xE with the blues and the whites really accentuating what basically a two-door JT should look like. And obviously the fact that it is electrified, you know, tickles a certain fancy for me. It's the wave of the future, and certainly with the Jeeps represented here at SEMA, they're taking the show by storm. Continued ranking on my top 5 list in no particular order is here at the Best Top booth of SEMA 2022. And this Jeep, if you're unfamiliar, is so freaking cool. It's probably one of my favorites because A, it reminds me of my own Jeep, Old Blue, but also the fact that it's got that beautiful resto patina on it, but it's what lies beneath of it. So if you have a keen eye and you wander past, you'll see that the leaf springs are actually wider than they should be for this era Jeep. And if you pan around it, they've done a great job making this into a wolf in sheep's clothing. When you come in and you take a look under the hood, you'll actually see a diesel-powered engine. That's because this particular Jeep is actually a Roxor in a CJ 3A clothing. So we have that Roxor driveline. And again, if you're familiar, Roxor, made by Mahindra, actually has Dana axles, front and rear. This is all new age technology. So it's based on old designs that Mahindra of India still has, and they produced it under the Roxor name. Now, understandably, Roxor and Jeep are having some marital feud, but this particular Jeep, Pigpen, which has been featured in Motor Trend magazine and on Dirt Every Day and a whole bunch of other lines, is just a fantastic marriage of form and function. I particularly love the Bellevue winch on the front. If you're unfamiliar, this particular winch is actually what predates the Warn 8274. It's kind of the daddy of the 8274. The downside to it is two things. One, no power out. So when you're actually stuck and that winch line is bound, you're tugging and tugging, and it has an exposed clutch system on this side. So as you're looking at it, it's not the most effective winch, but it is super cool and it's reasonably period correct for this particular Jeep. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. All right, guys, so you've gotten my top 5 favorite Jeeps of SEMA 2022, but in honorable mention, I have to talk about this one. It was a close call, but I love this Gladiator. I'm gonna tell you, what I like about it, it has a commitment to a theme, and obviously that bullet liner product is from front to back. The color code is so good. I gotta call attention to this awesome grill insert. It really just gives you that nice American patriot aspect, ties things together. Obviously gotta mention the Iron Rock off-road suspension that's part of this Jeep. So they have this textured bullet liner product on the brackets, on the bumper, the flares, the hood, the grill. It comes all the way down the bed. Even the mat tracks or the recovery tracks, the this big, massive bed rack is also linered. So, but it's done in a tasteful manner, right? I've seen it before and it's not so. This is actually done pretty darn well to showcase this particular product. The funny thing that I believe our performance mechanic Greg pointed out, interesting enough, they didn't do this. Now, that tells us go Team Blue as far as the Blue Jeep crew, but it's interesting. I wonder why they didn't do those specific hinges. Otherwise, we have these really cool black Rhino. There's a lot of people who really like this big earth roamer look. And of course, I love a Toyo Open Country anything series tire, whether it's the MT, the RT, or the AT series. This in general, it's a great quality tire, and it's just this big aggressive look to it. It's kind of what a Gladiator should look and feel like. It's a testament to, you know, blue Gladiators. If you know us, you know that within our company, Jeff, the Italian Stallion, has one. This one doesn't have that bug shield, but I think it deserves to be here.
Do I do it Wayne's World style? Do you even know what that is?
Yep.
We're going to SEMA.